Most of us can go without it for about a half a minute before our body demands a breath of this gas. Today it's what would happen if Earth lost oxygen for 5 seconds. I think we'd all hold our breath like this. But there's actually more to it. You live, work, sleep, eat, and have fun without giving a second thought to the miraculous substance that makes it all possible – oxygen. Most of us can go without it for about a half a minute before our body demands a breath of this gas. By the way, the record time for a person voluntarily holding their breath is more than 24 minutes. Wow! Can you imagine what would happen to our planet if oxygen disappeared for just 5 seconds? We bet the consequences are much worse than you'd ever dreamed. If Earth lost oxygen for even a short period of time, the results would be disastrous. See for yourself. Number 1. The crust of the planet would crumble. The earth beneath your feet would start to crack until it turned into dust. This would continue until there was nothing to stand on. That's because Earth's crust is 45% oxygen. So if this gas disappeared, you'd experience free fall because there would be no more ground. Number 2. Most people would suffer from hearing loss. Yes, your hearing depends on oxygen. To be exact, it's not hearing itself, but the organ your ability to hear depends on – your eardrum. If oxygen were to disappear suddenly, it would cause a loss of more than 20% of air pressure. That's similar to ascending from sea level to a height of 330 feet in 1 second. Such a difference between altitudes won't allow your eardrums to acclimate to the pressure changes. If oxygen suddenly disappeared, you'd be shocked by barotrauma, which typically occurs with a sharp change of pressure. Have your ears ever become blocked when your plane was gaining height, or when you were scuba diving? With no oxygen, you'd feel something like this, but much stronger and much more painful. Your inner ear would simply explode. This would most likely lead to loss of hearing. Duh! Number 3. People relaxing in the sun would get terrible burns. What protects you from the UV rays coming from the sun? This hero in the gas called ozone, which traps UV before it enters the troposphere. But ozone consists of 3 molecules of oxygen, O3. So if oxygen disappeared, have you ever imagined living in a grill? That's what life on Earth would be like without oxygen. Number 4. Water reservoirs would begin to evaporate immediately. Water contains 2 ingredients, 1 part or 33% oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen. If there were no oxygen, water would instantly become gaseous due to the main state of hydrogen. In fact, hydrogen is the lightest chemical on the periodic scale. That's why it would just go up to the troposphere and then leak out into space. As you can see, without oxygen, our green planet would become an extremely dry desert in less than 5 seconds. Number 5. All concrete constructions would fall to pieces. This may sound surprising, but structures made from concrete need oxygen to stay rigid. It's a crucial binder that keeps them together. If oxygen disappeared, all buildings, bridges, and roads made of concrete would simply fall apart. Having fun yet? Number 6. Untreated metals would weld together. The main reason why metals don't become welded when they come into contact with each other is the layer of oxidation they are coated with. When placed in a vacuum, metals weld even without the liquid phase that is necessary in other cases. This fact is taken advantage of in cold welding. If there were no oxygen, metals would fuse together in the blink of an eye. Number 7. Cars with internal combustion engines wouldn't work. Vehicles that rely on internal combustion engines to burn fuel and move — in fact, all vehicles except electric cars — would stop working. They all need oxygen to allow the process of combustion to occur. Without oxygen, cars would stop dead in their tracks, and airplanes and helicopters would drop down to the ground from the sky. Number 8. The day would become as dark as night. The surface of our planet receives sunlight after its particles are reflected off particles contained in the air, such as air impurities, dust, and most importantly, oxygen molecules. If there were no oxygen molecules in the air, there would be fewer particles for the light to bounce off. That's why the sky would look extremely dark, almost black. There would be light, but it wouldn't look like what we're used to — rays of sun coming from everywhere. It would seem as if the light was coming from a point source. Number 9. Every gas-fired boiler or power generator would go out, and so would fires. All gas-fired equipment and fires would immediately go out. Gas needs oxygen to burn. The same can be said about fire. When you burn something, you start a reaction of this material with oxygen. So, in other words, fire is the byproduct of this reaction. So no oxygen, no fire. Number 10. People wouldn't notice any changes in terms of breathing. You would be shocked by millions of cars stopping everywhere, planes falling from the sky, the ground crumbling away, and buildings turning to dust. But at the same time, your body wouldn't notice a lack of oxygen. People start suffocating only when there's a high level of carbon dioxide in their blood, not a deficiency of oxygen. So, what would happen after these 5 seconds when oxygen appeared in the atmosphere again? Surprise, we're back! There would be a huge and terrifying explosion. This would occur due to the oxidation of all the seas and oceans and all other bodies of water on our planet. Earth would probably become incredibly cold for several seconds after this explosion. You can see that oxygen is irreplaceable when it comes to supporting life. But are there other uses for this gas besides the one we have already mentioned? Have no doubt. Oxygen is used by hospitals. Doctors can enrich gaseous anesthetics with oxygen to increase the chances of a patient's survival. Oxygen is used to clean wastewater. Workers at treatment plants have recently started using pure oxygen in its gaseous state. Oxygen has become a means of recreation. Have you tried pure oxygen, or perhaps its flavored alternative, in a special oxygen bar? Such cocktails are believed to reduce stress and improve your mood. Oxygen can cool you down. In its liquid state, oxygen is widely used as a coolant. For example, it cools rocket systems. There is also commercial oxygen coolants that cater to the average consumer. Pneumatic systems also use oxygen. Compressed oxygen is cheap and effective. If you've ever used pneumatic drills, paint sprayers, and riveters, you're acquainted with it. Scientists use oxygen as an ecological indicator. For instance, they can study the oxygen content of a water reservoir and determine how healthy its ecosystem is. So, what consequence of oxygen disappearance seems the most terrifying to you? Tell us in the comments below. Remember to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. This way, you'll always be on the bright side of life.